Hey guys, it's Conf Studios here, doing the video a little differently today. I got a nice change of scenery, but I wanted to talk about something that's kind of been perplexing me lately, and that's the crowd level at Great Adventure. Now, if you've been to Great Adventure in the past couple of weekends, you'll notice that the park, it's been packed. Just this past Saturday, these are the wait times. Everything that was notable was pretty much over 2 hours, which is unreal, especially for this year, because this year really hasn't had the craziest crowds, especially through the summer. We've seen it kind of been very just slow, not too many people. Even Flash, it had that big boom at the beginning of the year where it had 2-3 hour lines every day. Once everyone rode it though, they kind of stopped visiting because quite frankly, there wasn't much of an incentive to keep coming. Obviously, we lost a ton of rides between the 2024 and 2025 off seasons, and we all kind of expected this to happen where there would be a big drop in attendance. But Fright Fest has kind of changed things quite a bit, and I think even the park is probably a little surprised by just how many people are showing up. So the reason I'm making this video is to kind of try and figure out why that is and how this is probably a really good thing for the park. I mean, obviously, having a huge influx of attendance is going to look very good no matter what sector you're in, especially in the amusement industry. I imagine that the company on the corporate level, they've probably been a little worried about what to do with Great Adventure ever since they decided to get rid of everything. And obviously it had probably a bigger impact than maybe they were even expecting, which I think anyone could have saw it coming if you're going to get rid of almost all, well, not all, but a good portion of major rides like, Ka, Lantern, etc. It's going to have an impact, and it certainly did throughout the summer. I mean, you could go to the park spring, summertime, and if you caught it on the right day, you're not really waiting for anything at all. But now during Fright Fest, even Thursday and Friday nights, they're not dead. Friday nights have been very crowded, especially this past Friday. Saturdays, forget it. You're almost guaranteed to be parking in the Hurricane Harbor lot. And even Sunday nights have been crowded. So why is this? Now, if you kind of look at it from a business perspective, right, what have they been doing differently for this Fright Fest compared to other Fright Fests? Quite honestly, not that much. I mean, in terms of marketing, I haven't really seen any difference in the way they've been doing their marketing. There's nothing different from a social media end or even radio, TV ads. I haven't really seen a difference. Quite honestly, if I'm going to be truthful, I think the marketing presence, especially on social media and other online platforms, has probably been weaker this year than it has in years past. I mean, their Instagram presence is very minimal. They're at the point now where they don't even update the hours. If the park were to close early, you have to look at the website or the app. You're not going to get an update on X, Instagram, Facebook, none of that, which I personally think is not great. But that just kind of shows how things have changed drastically within the company as more and more cuts have been made and just changes in the way that they manage it. So on the marketing end, there's not really anything that would lead to this influx, which is why I'm really so confused. I mean, I asked people that I know that aren't coaster enthusiasts, are you going to Fright Fest? Have you been? Most of them have not and don't plan to because they saw all the negative press around the park because of the fact that so many rides were removed. As a result of that, they're not really that inclined to go, especially because this year's Fright Fest, it doesn't really have that same marketing momentum that last year's did for Fright Fest Extreme, where they had all those IP mazes, a ton of new stuff. This year, it's literally all the same, just that 2 of the IP mazes have been swapped out for non-IP mazes, and they haven't really marketed them at all. You don't really know what you're getting until you get into the park itself, which, it's very interesting, that's for sure. So that kind of begs the question is how else is the park, doing anything differently to get more people in? I mean, my only assumption is that maybe there's been an influx in group sales. I know I've seen a lot of buses showing up to the park, which there always were a lot of buses, but it seems that there's definitely been a lot more than usual. Maybe there's bus routes coming in from the city. I know there's quite a few people who ride those from New York or Philly, and they have bus services that go from the city to the park and then leave presumably pretty late at night. That way people can stay and enjoy most of Fright Fest. The hours really haven't changed very much. I mean, they've been on Friday nights 5 to 11, 5 to 12 usually, and that's what they were last year and the year before. I think last year they actually had longer hours on Saturdays. If I remember correctly, they were open till 1 a.m. This year, I believe it's just capped at midnight. I haven't seen it open later than that. So on that front, not really any changes. So I think overall, it's just kind of interesting, that they've been having this big influx in attendance and there's not really any reason why. But disregarding that and just, excusing the fact that they're randomly getting tons of attendance, right? At the end of the day, that is a good thing because, while some people are still very jaded about what happened last year at the end with all the ride removals, the end of the day, we're not going to see any of those rides get replaced if attendance doesn't show up in droves at Great Adventure. And I think Fright Fest is probably going to be a massive kind of boost for them. And across the company, I mean, all the parks have been slammed during the Haunt Fright Fest seasons. Cedar Point, Kings Island, any park in the chain, you name it, they've been very crowded, especially if they have one of the more scare-oriented fall events. So that begs the question, what does this mean for the park going forward? Now, we're going to have the quarterly earnings report coming up probably in the next month or so, if I had to guess, and that's going to kind of show how Fright Fest performance has been for the company. If you guys have been following that end of the amusement industry with how Six Flags has been doing financially, been a bit all over the place. It hasn't been great. Definitely lower than what they were expecting, I'd imagine, and obviously, we know that both Salim Basul, who's the executive chairman of Six Flags, as well as Richard Zimmerman, who's the CEO, both of them are going to be leaving the company within the next year. It just depends on timing, of course. Richard is going to stay until there's a replacement CEO. Salim is going to leave relatively soon and be completely gone once Six Flags Qiddiya opens. So clearly, they wouldn't be leaving if there weren't reasons why. I think that's pretty obvious. But this is something that's very interesting to me. The big influx in attendance that we're probably going to see show up on that earnings report, coupled with the fact that we just had that weird investment from Travis Kelce and the Jana partners. I think we're in for a very strange time where I think we're going to see a lot of things shift from what they were originally planning. I think a lot of those original announcements and additions that they were planning on are going to either be completely scrapped or modified heavily. So what does that mean for Great Adventure specifically? I obviously know we're going to get that big coaster. Whether you want to agree that it's going to be the tower coaster or not, I don't really care. You'll see once it opens what it's going to wind up being, but we're getting that coaster, right? What comes after that? I think something that's probably going to happen sooner than later is the removal of slingshot and go-karts. That way they kind of have a fresh plate on the boardwalk there to do whatever they want with. As for what's going to come there, personally, I could see a Planet Snoopy themed area going down there. My dad came up with the idea of kind of theming it to like Joe Cool and like having a beach themed Peanuts area, which I think is a really, really good idea. So I think it's going to happen? Not necessarily, but they did have a Planet Snoopy area show up in the survey for new attractions to come to the park. So that tells you that they're definitely thinking about it for Great Adventure specifically. I think we all know though that we really need big marketable additions like big coasters. I mean, we're going to have the one, you know, the tower coaster presumably, but we're going to need more. And there's plenty of spots around the park to put that. As for what that's going to wind up being, I think that's more of a topic for another video. But I do think that overall, the major attendance shift from the beginning of Fright Fest to now is one of the most drastic ones I've ever seen. And I've been watching Great Adventure for years now, attendance, visiting, all of that. And I don't recall a time where we saw this big of a shift from the start of the year to the end of the year, or I should say the start of the season to the end of the season with regards to Fright Fest. So I'm very, very intrigued by this. I'm curious to see how this upcoming weekend goes for Halloween weekend. Usually it's not as crowded as the weekend that just passed. Usually that's going to be your peak, but they could throw a curveball and more people might show up than we're expecting. But I know it's a little bit of a different kind of video. I just wanted to sit down with you guys and kind of just address the fact that this is very unprecedented, at least very surprising. I wasn't expecting this, and I know a lot of other people probably weren't expecting this, or at least to this degree. So, I mean, really good on Great Adventure. I'm glad to see them getting the attendance they definitely need and deserve, and hopefully corporate recognizes this and starts pumping some money into a park that desperately needs it. Capacity needs to be increased big time, as we can see with the Fright Fest crowds, and I hope that the chain is willing to do that. But if you guys enjoyed this very different kind of video and like it, let me know down in the comments. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.